Welcome back to the Barca Breakdown. My name is Adam. I'm here with the Use.
What's up, guys?
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please hit that subscribe, like. Let us know your thoughts in the comments because it was a dour day to begin with, right? Use with Lionel Messi obviously leaving, crying, very traumatic. But this is the Barca Breakdown. We're going to talk about FC Barcelona and a pretty good 3-0 victory against Juventus in the Joan
100%.
Gamper game. And, you know, we started off the day with some unfortunate news about Frenkie De Jong, Lenglet, and Aguero all having, I think, muscular injuries that might keep them out, 2 to 5 weeks depending on the player. And so that was disappointing. It was cool to see Busquets out there as captain. That's a sight we're going to see a lot more use. But why don't you go ahead and go into Koeman's lineup in the last game before we play La Real at the Camp Nou next week in La Liga match day 1.
All right. So in the back, of course, we had Neto in place for Ter Stegen, and then we had Araujo, who was covering for Lenglet, Piqué, Alba, and Dest on the wings, and then the midfield, Sergio Roberto coming in for the FDJ, and then Busquets, of course. Then we had Demir kind of playing in the middle there, and then in the front, we had Griezmann, Depay, who we wanted to see, and then Braithwaite to cover that very front spot.
I got to say, I don't know how. I'm going to go crazy this season if Koeman keeps playing Sergio Roberto. And Sergio Roberto is even worse as a midfielder than he is as a right back, which is saying a lot. I mean, I think when I saw this lineup and I saw Sergio was in it, it seems like a lovely guy. Obviously, been at the club a long time, and I respect him. But as a player, at this point in time,
not what we want to see.
He just doesn't seem to have it, right? I'd rather see Nico Gonzalez. I'd rather see Ricky Puig, who put in that great goal for the the last goal of the game. Of course, Frenkie De Jong and Pedri are going to be our tried and true starters throughout the season. But seeing Sergio Roberto there really made me upset. How did you feel about seeing him in the lineup?
I have no comment. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum, where
he just kills the offense there.
Yeah, he's not.
Right? He doesn't
do anything.
He's not particularly quick. He doesn't have a great ability to combine with other players. He wasn't, it wasn't like the worst performance I've seen Sergi ever give, but it was just very bland. And then I think, one of the things, there's two things actually about Messi leaving that are going to be interesting to see in this Barcelona team. The first one is Antoine Griezmann now slots in on that right side. And, with Coutinho and Griezmann, we'd always had this issue where we felt like they were more comfortable up front on the right. With Messi, of course, we could never exactly make that work. However, now Griezmann's attacking from the right side. He has a brilliant left foot, and so I'm excited to see him up there and see if he's able to, get better shots on goal, overall create more on a side he's more comfortable with. And the second thing is, and this is something as we go into the game and what we saw today, it's really interesting because, with Messi, it's like you're playing with 2 extra players on offense, but on defense, it was like we were playing with 10 men versus 11.
Sure.
And so, today, especially from Griezmann, Depay, Braithwaite, we saw a front 3 that were really pressing a lot and defending a lot. And so, that's not going to necessarily it won't make up at all for the goals and assists of Messi and the Magic, but it will be a new element for us to look at. And I think as we start to embrace this new Barcelona team and this new era of Barca post-Messi, it will be cool to see how the team interacts differently, right? It'll be cool to see whether or not, the players before had so much pressure because every game felt like you need to win a trophy for Messi's legacy or you need to win and perform well so that you can maintain Messi's level. Now they're going to be much more free and we're going to get a lot more, pressing from the offensive side. And so as we go into the game, I was wondering how the players were going to be. Were they going to be dour, sad after they had just seen that press conference? But right at the beginning, 4th minute or so, we get Demir with a nice pass assist to Depay, who went one-on-one with the goalie and was able to score over the Juventus side. That was huge, Use.
For sure. And, we had a lot of times where we had that kind of situation, and Griezmann too in this, that didn't go as beautifully as Depay put it away, right? And so I'm glad to see Depay coming in and performing and scoring goals already in this preseason and in this game to win our first trophy of the 2021-22 season. Wonderful, beautiful play, and I hope he continues to do that and find the open space.
That's the thing, too, right?
Yeah.
Without Messi, we need to essentially make up 25 to 32 goals a season in La Liga,
100%.
right? Just in the league.
Yeah.
And so, if Depay, I'm curious to hear what your goals are for him in terms of goals this season in La Liga. But if Depay had a really good season, he would hit 20, right? If he had like an amazing season, he'd hit like 25. And so it's going to be really critical for us to see him clinical up front in goal. And it's good to see him have this boost in these first few games and put away goals because, we saw with Griezmann, there were times in the last 2 years where he would have a goal drought and you could feel every time he had an opportunity against the goalie one-on-one, the weight of the misses before him were weighing on him. And so I'm glad to see Depay take these opportunities, and I want to see him really start this La Liga season off super hot. Like we were saying, the assist was from Yusuf Demir, who had another just brilliant performance today. I mean, overall, just very good. It seems like he has some creativity offensively that we really need to connect with Griezmann, Depay, Braithwaite possibly as well. And so it's really, really heartening to see that. In terms of other players who were really stars in this game, I mean, Braithwaite scored the second goal. Overall, I think you have some comments about Braithwaite and how he fits in, but he did have a nice header, put the goal in the net, and that's what we need from him, right? If Braithwaite is going to stay on the team and can put in 8 goals a season, that would be just – I'd be over the moon.
100%, and I just have this feeling that the times we've seen Braithwaite come in, granted he didn't get a lot of time, he usually came in as a sub, but I felt like he didn't lack enough – or he lacked – scoring ability, and I have a worry in some of these harder games coming up that he may not be able to do those same types of similar open spots, right? He came in and scored that header off a corner kick from Depay. Beautiful run-in, beautiful positioning, found the hole. Great. I just don't think that is something he normally does and may be able to do continuously.
You got to assume without Messi, we're going to have less chances, which means that we have to be a lot more clinical with the chances we have. Mm-hmm. And even with Messi putting up, great assists at the end of last season, being clinical was the biggest issue we had at the end of, last La Liga season against Real Madrid, Atletico, Granada, right? Some of these games, we just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And with Dembele hurt, who, was always good for a few goals throughout the season, it's going to be important to see Braithwaite continue this on. And that's, this is why we keep talking about Depay, right? It sounds like Depay a lot. It's because a lot of the load of this team, even before we knew Messi was gone, it was going to have to be on Depay and have to be him on like that next big signing. And it is heartening to me to see that he's, going to take it on full force.
Sure. I want to go into a little bit since the third goal was by Riqui Puig.
Boom. And you've hated Riqui Puig for a long time, Yus.
And so
I'm really glad to see Ricky finally score and hopefully convince Koeman to play.
Don't listen to him. Anyway, beautiful goal, right? The pass came from Neto. He did a little turn and just great positioning in the left corner, I believe. And that's something we need to see from Riqui Puig, not just a goal-scoring capabilities, but just a confidence on the field, and that's wonderful. I'm glad he came in and did that. Then we also, like you were saying...
One interesting thing about Puig, though, is that you can kind of already sense a little bit of how much more rusty he is because of the lack of playtime in the last season. There were some routine passes I feel like Riqui Puig wasn't crisp on, and part of that is because he hasn't had a lot of confidence in playtime from the coach. And so I'm hoping to see him use these opportunities so that, against Real Sociedad, week 2, week 3, week 4, when we're still missing Frenkie, still missing Pedri, I'm hoping Riqui Puig's name is at least the first sub, if not starting some of these games instead of Sergio Aguero.
100%.
Right.
And you gotta consider that Koeman watching this performance has to be taking notes on this, especially after not playing him, this last season. And Puig staying on and being confident, saying, I'm here for Barcelona. I love it. On top of that, like you were saying earlier, Demir, great performance from a young player. Then we had Nico come in, good performance. And
Neto.
Neto.
We got to mention Neto.
True.
He had a lot of saves. And,
MVP of this game.
MVP of the Joan Gamper game, right? Not saying a huge amount, but, it must be said as well. We won 3-0. We had a pretty good game for Barca for this preseason. This Juventus side wasn't really firing on all cylinders, right? The subs didn't seem to do much. Ronaldo was pretty lackadaisical. But, Neto faced, 4 shots in that first half and saved them all. And so it's good to see him get confidence as well before we see Ter Stegen, come back, which won't be for another, 4 to 5 weeks. On the defense as well, Araujo looked really good and solid. I had been thinking for a while that PK and Araujo is probably better than PK Lenglet. And so I'm hoping to see him continue with his confidence.
100%. And Coiolla that came in later on didn't have a lot of time, but I do want to say he was very well oriented on the ball in terms of being able to take it away from players and control it. That was really good. I know he didn't get a lot of time.
And we had, it was alleged that we were going to loan him out. Without Messi, signs are pointing to the fact that Coiolla could stay, which might be really good for the team.
Oh, and we're totally forgetting. You're right, but we're totally forgetting Emerson and Baldi here.
Yep.
They came in and they did a great job. I'm glad that Emerson came in for Dest and seemed to be on both sides of the ball and do it really well.
It was a little bit rough. He hasn't had a lot of time with the team, and so he's going to have to warm up. But, at Betis last season, we saw him perform really well. Like you're saying, Balde, too, looked promising, subbing in for Alba. Both of those players are going to need some time to get more acquainted to the Barca style and, the roles Koeman wants them to have. But overall, I'm pretty excited, Yus. I think this was a good way to turn the page. It would be really, I think, disastrous if we had lost the first game without Messi. But at least this helps the players get some confidence and realize, like, hey, there is a life after Messi.
Sure. And on that note, right, since we're having this hole in our team, where do you see, as of today's performance and going into the next week, really, for our first game, where do you see areas we could improve on that you think are more obvious at this time?
Well, I think this midfield is not good.
Okay.
I mean, of course, we're out without two of our three starters, and so that's going to be how it has to be, right? I mean, Frenkie De Jong and Pedri are both like world-class players, and to have Sergio Aguero and, Demir in there, I think he's probably plays better up front than as like a midfielder.
Sure.
We were playing kind of like a 4-2-3-1 today, so he was a little bit of a hybrid.
Sure.
But the midfield, right? I think once we play against Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, they have some definitely more seasoned, more experienced, and better midfielders, and so it's going to be imperative that Frenkie gets back as soon as possible. Pedri takes a rest, but when he's ready, comes back and helps us in these big games. Because like we talked about in our prediction video, that we never put out because Messi left. The first 3 weeks of October, I think we have Valencia. I think we have Atletico, Valencia, Real Madrid, something like that. And so, that's still 2 months away. But those are huge games early on in the season, and we're going to need our midfield to be up, tip-top shape for that. I think as well, Braithwaite, I'm not exactly sure, like you were saying, if he's clinical enough to put away opportunities. And so I'm hoping to see how Aguero does when he finally gets on the pitch, although the news of his, I think calf strain is not good. So I think offensive. I think the narrative's the same even before we had known Messi was leaving, is that this team's going to be okay offensively. It's just defensively we got to see how they are, whether or not Busquets and Piqué, if their age and slow legs are going to be a big problem against faster, more pressing teams.
Sure.
And I think, the last thing I want to say is that there was a report this summer that Koeman really wants to see the midfielders score more goals, and it was good to see Puig. At least Puig put one in today, and like we said, we're going to have to carry that goal load that we're losing from Messi, and so hopefully, I don't expect Busquets to put too many in, but Frenkie De Jong and Pedri definitely could both put in 4, 5, 6 this season, and that would be huge.
100%.
Thank you, guys. I think that's it. We hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you next week for the La Real game at the Camp Nou. Let's go, Barca.
Bye, guys.